Kush Motwani was born in Navsari, Gujarat. He has done his schooling from Delhi Public School, Nerul. He has done his B.Tech in Electrical Engineering and M.Tech in Communications and Signal Processing from IIT Bombay. This was his 5th attempt. In 2021 Civil Service Exam, he was allotted Indian Corporate Law Service. And after joining the service, he last year in July 2023 resigned from it and is currently working as a data analyst. He has co-authored a patent named Population Modeling System. He also loves to play and watch football. He is an avid reader of fantasy fiction. All India rank 11, Kush Motwani. Kush, please welcome. And I would request Sir to felicitate him with a plant.
Comfortable. I'll use the mic only. Okay. Am I audible now? Good evening, namaste. How are you? Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting. As ma'am introduced me, my name is Kush. I graduated in 2017. I started preparation in 2019. This is the third time I cleared the exam. So very as sir was just telling me, very interesting journey, and I agree with her. So broadly, I'd probably divide this into a few parts. First is the things that I think are important. First is I always think that preparation exam should not be seen in three ways, as a three-stage exam separately. Lot of people think that prelim separate hai, main separate hai. If I use a little bit of Hindi in between, is that fine, or would English be better? It is fine, right? Okay. So a lot of people think that prelim separate hai, main separate hai, interview separate hai, and we need a little bit of different preparation for all the three stages. Little bit of different thing is needed, but showroom mein when we start, I think we need to look at it in a very holistic, comprehensive way. Because there is more overlap than there are differences between the exams, between the three stages, and yeah. So that would be the first part. Second part is with respect to prelims or CSAT specifically. If anyone has anything. Third is with respect to main specifically, how to go about practice, what is the role of practice, how much practice should be done, how to start with answer writing, what kind of value additions are needed, and so on to improve marks. I think a lot of you are. I don't know how familiar a lot of you here are with the mains process, so I can give a quick introduction also if you want. The last part is interview. And apart from that, maybe a couple of small things with respect to what to do if this happens or that happens. So if you think this will be helpful, then I can start. Otherwise, we can decide on a different format. So do you think this makes sense, or do you want to decide on a different? Do you want this to be structured a little differently? If uh, this structure seems okay. Pakka? No, I think I'm for now I'm good. Maybe later, if I want to share my screen, can I do that to give some examples? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Uh, so this structure seems fine, right? किसी को और कुछ मतलब do you if there's anything, interrupt me anytime or later. I'll be happy to talk about that. So first thing is looking at the entire thing एक साथ prelims mains interview. That is extremely important क्योंकि one, if we look at it separately, then say we are preparing specifically focused on prelims, then prelims khatam hota hai, is not a lot of time between prelims and mains, right? तो उस time पे sudden वो लगता है कि what is to be done now and so on. Plus optional subject is there. With respect to optional subject, the time between prelims and mains is not nearly enough to look at mains, to practice for mains, to practice answer writing, to practice optional and so on. So that is why this becomes very important. Secondly, I think that I believe that a lot of prelims stuff helps in main. A lot of main stuff helps in prelims. I think this is the part that people do not focus on, right? Prelims ka stuff mains mein help karta hai, yes, but mains ka stuff also, like the way of approach for mains, the analytical process, the thought process, that also helps in prelims, and that is helping in prelims more and more now as prelims is becoming more and more analytical, right? पहले prelims में ऐसे मतलब earlier what used to happen is a lot of questions were asked from current affairs. Now that has become very less. So that is something that maybe we can maybe I'll touch upon again in a little bit. But the approach or the analytical process that would go in answering a mains question is now useful for prelims also, because the prelims questions are structured the same way. And this is a part that people have. This is a part that we don't think about, right? क्योंकि अपन को लगता है कि वो objective है तो कैसे link है. So and plus the third aspect of this is कि both of these things help a lot in the interview. Again, myself or people have told me that for interview के लिए you have to prepare separately, but I have time and again I've given appeared for the interview twice. I've done well all the 3 times, and I have extensively used my notes which I had for the pre or the mains for my interview, and that has helped me immensely. So that is the third way. And finally, yeah. So finally, why this sort of looking at it holistically uh, is very important is because मेंस में बहुत सारे टॉपिक्स होंगे, थोड़े टॉपिक्स ऐसे भी होंगे, देयर विल बी सम टॉपिक्स which do not have an overlap with prelims, right? तो उसके लिए तो you'll have anyway have to put in a little bit of extra effort between prelims and mains. But the other topics that are common, we can benefit by preparing beforehand and just revising in that time to make the best use of that time, right? So easily also that becomes very important. And these topics include but are not limited to art and culture, modern history, polity, a lot of economy, and so on, right? So this is the first thing. I am emphasizing you. ऐसा लग रहा होगा कि I am over emphasizing on this, but I am because I think I personally made this mistake a couple of times, or maybe in the beginning, looking at it differently and not holistically. And secondly, I believe I was told that a lot of you are starting preparation now. So at the start, if you take this approach, then that will help save time. That will help. Although it will help save time, not only it will help save time, but it will also help you understand in a understand like the big picture in a way which अगर अलग अलग करो तो फिर नहीं समझ में आएगा. So so this is the first thing, and I can give an example of this if you like. Later I can probably share my screen and give an example of, or I can just share my notes with all of you later. But yeah. So this is the first thing that I wanted to share, because I believe in this time I was fortunate to get a good rank, but I think this helped me a lot, especially when time is less and when you think that things are not working. Secondly, again I believe as told that Abhi, how many of you have appeared for prelims before? Okay. तो not a lot. A lot of you will be appearing for the prelims for the first time. So the first thing that I would like to tell all of you is do not. Lot of people will tell you prelims clear करना difficult होता जा रहा है. Lot of people will tell you prelims random होता जा रहा है. Lot of people will tell you CSAT is getting more and more difficult, and so on. I would say कि don't listen to these people. Yes, some of these things are true. Some of these things may not be true, but every time, trust me, every year, the person who's appearing with the prelims the first time is told the same things, and every year still, if you think that difficult hota ja raha hai, then there's that additional pressure, right? And ऐसा नहीं है कि difficult होता जा रहा है. I agree that CSAT में there's a lot of things that are becoming more difficult. Questions are more challenging in the sense that they are mixing different concepts and asking questions. जैसे one example is earlier there used to be simple questions on permutations and combinations, simple question on some other topic, probability. Now they are mixing the two topics and asking a question. So yes, that is new. That is leading to an added element of complexity. But what is constant is and the good thing. What is the constant and the good thing is जो ये mixed question है, that is based on the simple concept of PNC and the simple concept of permutation. Some questions are also becoming being based on more complex concepts, but for majority of the questions it's not like that. With a very basic level of preparation and with an organized approach, with a reading the question very very carefully and then solving the question step by step, still a lot of and getting the comfort to solve those questions step by step with practicing a lot of those type of questions beforehand. I think you would, if that is done, then you would not find the paper as difficult as people make it out to be. With respect to the non-CSAT part, prelims cutoff has been decreasing, and people say that is why the paper has been more difficult. Again, I would disagree. I would disagree because firstly, current affairs का component in the prelims का paper is reducing, and I see that as a good thing, right? क्योंकि पहले current affairs से बहुत सारे questions आते थे, you would have been required to spend a lot of time reading current affairs. Now, because so many questions are not being asked from current affairs, you can reduce the amount of time that you are spending on current affairs and put in that time doing something else which may be more rewarding, right? So this I see only as a good thing. So that is the first thing. Second thing is there are questions that are becoming more analytical, right? And if our approach, or if our approach towards the syllabus, towards say topics of quality, towards say topics of economy, towards say even some topics of modern history or art and culture. Obviously, there are some factual questions that are not analytical. उनका तो कुछ वो नहीं, मतलब you have to know them, you have to study them. But the good thing is if आपने पूरा syllabus पढ़ा है, if आपने polity पढ़ा है, and even if you don't know specifically about that question being asked, you can deduce some things about that question based on something else that you would have already studied, and get to the answer, or at least eliminate a few options and reduce it to 2 options, which in which case the odds become in your favor, right? So that way also it's not becoming more difficult. It's just their nature is changing, and our preparation or our approach, our practice while we are solving the mock papers or prelims, or while we are solving the actual exam, that needs to change, right? So that is why I'm saying कि when people tell you कि it's becoming more difficult, don't believe those people. आप जिस तरह से पढ़े उसी तरह से पढ़ते रहो, अच्छे से प्रैक्टिस टेस्ट्स दो प्रीलिम्स के पहले. अभी इस साल का प्रीलिम्स सब लोग दे रहे होंगे ना शायद, या majority of the people would be appearing for this year's prelims, right? So not a lot of time. So one request to you is don't go into the exam thinking that it is getting more difficult or it will be more difficult than last year, right? Because and not just go into the exam, right? So from this moment onwards, because uh, that just it is just that the nature is changing, right? And that does not mean that it is getting more difficult or more easier. It's just becoming different, and our approach needs to become a little different uh, to ensure that we are able to clear the prelims as well as the CSAT. Uh, Specifically, again, I was told that some of the common doubts are so any specific doubts we can discuss later. But I was told that some of the common doubts are कि um, things like how many questions we should attempt. जैसे prelims में इतने questions है तो कितने attempt करने चाहिए. When should we attempt? If you're very confident, should we attempt only then, or if you're partially confident, should we attempt only then? Um, if we are so going through the paper once, should we do the complete paper while going through it once, or should we go over it once and then go over it again and so on? So these are different ways of doing, and to all of these questions, my one answer to you would be do what you are most comfortable with. क्योंकि so personally I cleared prelims mains interview once, and then in my next attempt I could not even clear the prelims, and I think that happened because one of the reasons that happened because I went with an approach that was not natural to me. Even in my first, even when I cleared the prelims, I was fortunate to clear it, but my approach was not something that was mine. And in my last two attempts, where I again cleared all the three stages, with much lesser pressure on myself, I cleared the prelims much more comfortably because I found what is the thing that I am comfortable with, what is the approach that I am comfortable with. So there may be a lot of approaches, and there is no correct or wrong approach. वो आपको डिसाइड करना है कि आप किसके साथ कंफर्टेबल हो, क्योंकि आप जिसके साथ कंफर्टेबल होगे वो आप एग्जाम में रेप्लिकेट कर पाओगे, तो आपका बेस्ट परफॉर्मेंस आएगा. सो व्हाट यू आर कंफर्टेबल विथ मे बी लाइक मैं आई नो अ फ्रेंड who just goes through the paper once. मतलब वो 2 घंटे में सिर्फ एक बार कोई भी क्वेश्चन को रिविजिट नहीं करते हैं, वो एक एक करके जाते हैं. पूरा जितना टाइम 2 hours डिवाइडेड बाय नंबर ऑफ क्वेश्चंस इन द सेंस कि क्वेश्चंस दैट ही वांट्स टू प्रॉपरली अटेम्प्ट, उतना देते हैं और डिसाइड करते हैं, आंसर कर देते हैं, एंड ही डज नॉट रिविजिट दैट क्वेश्चन. So he is comfortable with that approach. He feels, and he has cleared prelims multiple times. I think five times or maybe 6 times, right? And I also know a friend who goes through the paper thrice. So he goes quickly through the paper once. जो confident है, he answers that, and then goes through the paper again. जो confident है, या little more confidence वो answer करते हैं, and then finally checks and all that. There are a lot of people somewhere in the middle. A lot of people do specific topics first and then other topics later. Topics that they are more confident with first, and then topics that they are less confident with earlier. So, and all of these people have been successful in the exam, right? So the answer to all of your questions, and we can discuss any number of them. But one thing is कि आपको during the course of practice, you have to figure out कि आप किस चीज़ के साथ comfortable हो. And this not just holds for the GS part of prelims, it also holds for the CSAT part of prelims. It also holds for the mains part. And more importantly than that, it also holds for, even before this, it also holds for किस तरह से आप पढ़ रहे हो. आपको जिस तरह से, मतलब the way I study may not be the same way, that may not be the style that you would be comfortable with studying. And again, there are lots of examples of this. जैसे some people make handwritten notes. Some people don't make notes at all. They just highlight things in Lakshmikant, and then during the exam they quickly go through the highlighted text. Some people make digital notes. So you have to understand, and this is something that is very important. It will be with you throughout. कि what is it that I am most comfortable with, and then go with that, क्योंकि that will bring out the best in you. That will bring out the best not just during the exam but also before the exam in the preparation stage. अगर आप handwritten notes के साथ comfortable नहीं हो and you make handwritten notes just because class में everyone else is making handwritten notes and you try to read from them or you try to revise from them, that will not bring out the best in terms of आपको कितना याद हो रहा है या retention कितना हो रहा है या replicate कितना हो रहा है एग्जाम में. तो my second request would be कि take the approach or take the style that you think brings out the best in you, that you think makes you most confident, right? क्योंकि I can come and tell you how I did, right? But that may not bring out the best in you. I can tell you how I studied, I can tell you how I make note, but that may not bring out the best in you. So that is very important. तो एंड द नेक्स्ट इसका नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है कि हमें कैसे पता चलेगा कि हमारे लिए सबसे अच्छा क्या है, राइट? तो इसका आंसर है प्रैक्टिस, इसका आंसर है थोड़ा एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन. तो इसका एग्जांपल भी प्रीलिम्स डिस्कस करें तो प्रीलिम्स के हिसाब से ही ले लेंगे, बाकी मेंस के बाद नेक्स्ट मेंस के लिए भी कर लेंगे. तो प्रीलिम्स में सपोज आप प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हो, शुरू में आप पूरे 100 क्वेश्चन, सपोज अभी तो पूरा 100 क्वेश्चन ही प्रैक्टिस करना चाहिए. तो in the first few tests, I don't know how many of you have started practicing for tests yet. I am sure some of you would have. So in the first few tests, थोड़े अलग-अलग try to attempt the test with a few different ways, and then see कि what you feel comfortable with, right? Whether it is topic wise, whether it is full topic, I would say go with a full syllabus test, because topic wise becomes a little constraining. I'm not saying topic wise practice is bad, it is useful, but it may be a little constraining in terms of understanding. So do that practice, and then based on that figure out कि मुझे किस में मतलब मज़ा आ रहा है, मुझे किस में लग रहा है कि I'm not feeling stressed, or I'm not feeling I'm feeling that I am able to confidently answer the questions. I'm able to confidently take a guess where I need to take a guess, right? I'm able to confidently eliminate 2 options so that just 2 options are left, and then I can choose one of them. So that is the way to do that is practice, right? And likewise for mains. So again, I'll quickly touch upon this part. So means we have 20 questions हर GS के paper में, right? 10 markers and 10 20 markers. This has been the format since a few years. Obviously, this may change, but for the time being, it has been this way. So again, इसमें what questions to attempt first, what questions to attempt later, because it's again a very constrained time environment. 3 घंटे में 20 question लिखना, या फिर बहुत सारे pages लिखना, not the easiest thing to do. So again, find out something that you are comfortable with instead of just starting with question number 11 because someone else is telling you to start with question number 11. And इसमें भी experiment, जैसे so this year I did a lot of interesting. This year I practiced a lot before my mains for my answers. So I did a lot of interesting experiments, and what I ended up doing, for example, in ethics was पहले. So I don't know if you are familiar with how the ethics paper is structured. For those who are not, we have 13 10 markers and then 6 20 marker case studies. So people say different things. Some people again go with case studies first, some people go with questions first. So this year, and ethics paper is a little long because लिखना ज़्यादा पड़ता है. तो again, that's something you may have heard. So this year what I ended up doing was first attempting 2 case studies, then attempting 4 questions, then 2 case studies, 4 questions, 2 case studies, 5 questions in approximately half an hour, little bit less, little couple of minutes less than half an hour for the case studies and couple of minutes more than half an hour for the questions. So why this helped me was firstly writing either case studies again and again or writing either the 10 markers again and again may lead to certain amount of repetition or may lead to certain amount of saturation in terms of thinking of examples that you may already have prepared, but उस time पे याद नहीं आ रहा. The second advantage is 10 markers लिखने में बहुत time लगता है, तो हाथ दुखने लगता है, तो एंड केस स्टडीज़ बहुत लंबे होते हैं, तो वो पढ़ने में हाथ को ब्रेक मिल जाता है, तो so that way also it helps a bit. So this is something that I thought of, I experimented. I did not obviously do it first time exam में जाके. I did it before the exam only, and I felt कि हाँ, there's something that I think I am comfortable with, and there's something that I went and did in the exam, right? So how to discover what is working for you? उसके लिए the way to go about it is experimentation. And again, once you figure out कि क्या करना है, उसके बाद then you can use resources that may be available. तो जैसे and again one suggestion which is I did not use much. I did not use directly, but a friend of mine used. Is he made flashcards. He made his notes in the form of flashcards. So flashcards में मतलब instead of writing line by line, he wrote it in a flashcard way कि एक साइड पे कुछ लिखा, दूसरी साइड पे कुछ लिखा, एंड एक साइड पे पढ़ के याद करने का कोशिश किया कि दूसरी साइड पे क्या है. तो ऐसा मतलब अपन इंट्रिंसिकली या अपन नेचुरली थोड़ा वैसा करने की कोशिश करते हैं. ऐसे कुछ देखते हैं, फिर सोचने की कोशिश करते हैं कि व्हाट आर द थिंग्स दैट आर रिलेटेड टू दिस, या ऐसा कुछ आया तो व्हाट आर द पॉइंट्स दैट वी मे नीड टू नो. बट this is a formal way of doing it, and it's a structured way of doing something that we naturally do. It's a structured way of learning in a way that we naturally learn. So this is again something that you can do. Then yeah, so right, so this is with respect to this is with respect to certain things with respect to prelims. Happy to discuss anything else. You can do it. Wow, yes. हाँ, prelims से related या किसी भी चीज़ से related, you can just, और बाद में पूछना, बाद में पूछ सकते हो.
Good evening, sir. Sir, I have given last attempt, and this is my second attempt.
Right.
Last attempt I could not qualify prelims. This attempt, I have given already. I have given a numerous number of mock tests already.
Right.
So I did too much of experimentations. Starting, I did all 100 questions. Whether I know, I don't know. I used to give all 100 questions. Then later I gave only the questions that I am sure with. I gave only for 55 questions. That's it. All these experiments I did in the beginning, and I used to get scores accordingly. When I used to attempt more questions, there was more chance of me getting better marks than even if I am sure with 55 questions, I used to get less score than I attempting 100 questions where I am not sure with the other 45. So my doubt is now this was in the initial part of my mock tests. Now after this, I am giving full length tests in vision and even numerous other mock tests I am giving. And my scores are fluctuating. They are fluctuating 20 marks. They are in few tests are coming at the range of 70s, and few are coming 90s, and few are coming 100s. So I am my mental state of my state of mind right now is where I'm exactly. I don't know where exactly I am, because now I am not doing any experimentations.
Right.
Now I am I got a sweet spot of between 85 to 93 questions. I am attending only so much of questions, and I am leaving the rest. So whether this you are usually when you are preparing for other entrance exams, let it be NEET or JEE or other exams, the mock test scores usually they'll reflect in the main score, because the range where you are in will definitely reflect it in this. Whether UPSC is you might also have given numerous mock tests before appearing for prelims. So whether this exactly matter or or how to improve this curve.
Right. So it's very important couple of points that you raised. One is you have found your sweet spot. 85 से 93 क्वेश्चन अटेम्प्ट करना है. So I think that's very good. I would say stick with it. अब 85 करना है या 90, 84 करना है, 83 करना है, 92 करना है, that depends. उस टाइम पे here so that is a very good thing. Secondly, what you pointed out is again a very important point. I am audible, right? Yes. Key scores fluctuate, and yes, that happens क्योंकि अलग-अलग जो mock test दोगे उसका difficulty level अलग होगा. In some tests there may be a lot of current affairs. In some tests there may be not a lot of current affairs. In some tests there may be a subject that you are very confident in, such as I don't know which subject. So suppose you are very confident with polity, right? तो एक टेस्ट में पॉलिटी क्वेश्चन ज्यादा होंगे या ऐसे क्वेश्चंस होंगे जो तुम कर पा रहे हो, तो इसलिए स्कोर्स फ्लक्चुएट करेंगे. एंड आई थिंक 80 से 100 का फ्लक्चुएशन इज फाइन. यू शुड नॉट गेट टू वर्क्ड अप अबाउट दैट. फोकस शुड बी ऑन 80 से 100 को 90 से 110 कैसे कर सकते हैं. फोकस शुड बी ऑन क्या कोई जो क्वेश्चंस में तुम कॉन्फिडेंट नहीं हो, जो क्वेश्चंस में यू आर हैविंग टू टेक अ गेस out of 2 options or maybe sometimes out of 3 options, how can you improve those guesses? Focus should be on say figuring out answering questions like this, right? Thoda fluctuation ho raha hai, that should not that you should not get too worked up about that. Focus should be on wo fluctuation ko thoda sa aage kaise बढ़ा दें. 70 से 100 को 80 से 110 कैसे करें या 90 से 120 कैसे करें, right? So I think don't get I would say don't get too worked up about the fluctuation. Focus on how to take that forward, and specific steps how to take that forward. One, जो टेस्ट किया है उसकी बेसिस पे थोड़ा वीक स्पॉट्स आइडेंटिफाई करो और look at the question that you are getting wrong. And question that you are getting wrong would be of 2 types. एक जो नहीं आता है, एक जो कर सकते थे और गलत हो गया. तो जो कर सकते थे और अच्छे से नहीं हुआ, उसमें that try to figure out कि वो क्यों नहीं हुआ या उसको बेटर कैसे कर सकते हैं, because that will help. That is the lowest hanging fruit, right? That will help push the most. Second is जो again this is related to the first thing, but जो guess जो तुमने guess किया और गलत guess हो गया, तो again some part of it is again semi or not entirely structured but fairly structured approach. So abhi so third part was going to be I divided into mentioned 5 parts in the beginning, so I move on to the third part and hopefully I can answer your question. The third part is about mains. So about mains, so a couple of several things. First is जो topics which are common between prelims and mains. So the topics that are common between prelims and mains, उसमें तो we already discussed that we have to prepare and prepare. Topics that are not common. The not common में थोड़े बहुत topics होते हैं. Society होता है, IR होता है, internal security होता है, disaster management होता है. तो for these topics थोड़ा separately prepare करना ही है, वो तो करना ही पड़ेगा. Third thing is practice. तो mains and practice is very important. And practice in the sense of writing papers and मतलब as much as you can write in between prelims and mains, that helps. Obviously, maybe you cannot write. It's not possible to write maybe more than 30 papers, but if you can reach 30, then that is very helpful. ऐसा नहीं है कि if you write only 15 papers, उसके बाद utility will be very less. No, that's not true. Practice helps and it reflects, and that also helps a lot in retention. क्योंकि और किसी का और कहीं से कुछ पढ़ा है, वो याद करना is much more difficult than remembering something that you have already written, right? And if you say do 20 papers, if you say do 25 papers, you would have written so much that उधर से ही बहुत सारा चीजें तुम्हें याद होगा, right? So that is something that is the other way in which it helps, right? And that hopefully answers a part of your other part of your question also, how to manage that insecurity. So if you do 25 papers, you don't have to do it in 3 hours. मतलब I will tell you my experience, and this is across the years. I have initially not finished any paper in 3 hours. You try to maximize on the content that you can write, maximize on
the time leke it doesn't have to come immediately. Time leke likho, you may take 4 hours initially. For the first few you may take 4.5 hours, you may take 5 hours, and gradually bring it down by half an hour. But once you write it once, उसके बाद writing it again is easier. And themes do repeat क्योंकि mains का syllabus is limited. And if you do 20 odd papers, 25 odd papers, most of those themes will be covered, right? So even if a question is new, it will be from one of the existing themes, and then you can figure out a way to relate something that you have already written to that theme and write it. So that it and you can do it in a way कि वो it doesn't look ऐसे कि forcefully लिखा है. Forcefully नहीं लिखना, अगर मतलब नहीं relate हो रहा, सिर्फ आधा पेज एक पेज relate हो रहा है, तो उतना ही लिखना है. But that makes all the difference, right? Being able to make that relation from something that you have already studied, something that you have already written, and I मतलब I promise you, if you do 20 papers, if you do 25 papers, that insecurity will go, right? क्योंकि you would have written so much, you would feel that confidence कि हाँ मैंने इतने सारे चीजें लिखी हैं, अगर question आएगा तो I will be able to write, right? So hopefully that is one way. The other way is just in terms of going through this is something that again is a little underappreciated. तो जो notification होता है exam का, उसमें there is a very clearly defined syllabus for mains, right? And it has a limited set of points. And the other way of reducing this, the other way of ensuring that vicious cycle is not there or that insecurity is not there, is just to go through that syllabus and think कि अच्छा for each point of that syllabus, can I think of 10 things? The question will be from those things, and if you can think of 10 things or 20 things or 15 things or even 5 things from all of those things, then I think that you are reasonably well prepared, right? So that way also it is not infinite. It may appear to be, questions may be infinite, but our preparation cannot be infinite. We have to do as much as we can. Obviously, we can't do infinite with finite preparation, but we have to do as much as we can with finite preparation, and that should be our focus.
So, sir, like you are telling, like of the point, we should be always remembering that we have to limit our works within 200 and 150.
Right, 250 and 150. Yes.
We need to remember all the points and detail everything, data points and all. Like resources are so much in this market.
Right.
You will be getting all the data points. You have to remember those, going the correct
right.
Every part, like that is the only part.
Right. So you have to decide कि यार मेरे को ये याद रखना है और मैं ये याद रख के मैं ये लिख के आऊँ. You have to decide कि yes, I am going to remember these things, and not only I am going to remember these things, I am also going to write them. If you remember 1,000 things, you cannot write 1,000 things in the exam. Right? Say you in GS1, GS2, where the utility of data is relatively limited. I'm not saying it's not important. It is important, but relatively limited. But in GS3, data is important. GS3 have only 20 questions. You write 5 data points in each of those 20 questions. Still, you need to remember only 100 data points. This is maximum, right? So focus should be, instead of remembering 100 or 200 or 300 data points, focus should be on remembering maybe only a 50 data points, but making sure that I am able to use a majority of them. I am able to figure out a way कि ये इस question से कैसे link करके मैं लिख सकता हूँ, right?
So sir, so the next question which comes to mind is that like if the same five points which I am reading, like many other aspirants will be also reading all the same. Like okay. How to stand out?
You have to differentiate on the ability to contextualize that with respect to the question. मतलब putting it in a structured manner and making sure कि it is related to the question being asked. It seems related. It does not look forced. If it looks forced, then not right. Right. And the other thing is, if you are practicing and writing an answer, if you think that इसलिए मुझे कुछ नहीं आता, it's okay to refer to some notes to write that answer. It's okay to refer to some material to write that answer. But once you write that, try and remember it and use it again. Right? And if you revise your own papers, then maybe pick and choose कि अच्छा हाँ ये अपने पेपर से मैं याद रखने वाला हूँ, ये अपने पेपर से मैं नहीं याद रखने वाला. But even if you refer to notes and write, that also helps a lot in two ways. One, it helps in building confidence. Two, it's easier to remember what you have already written. You are going to revise it again, and you are going to then focus on figuring out कि इस चीज को और कैसे यूज किया जा सकता है और कहाँ यूज किया जा सकता है. So that is something that I would say. क्योंकि I have, as I mentioned earlier, I have taken when I write my first test, when I written my first test this year also, I took more than 4.5 hours, and I did not write it without seeing my notes. I referred to my notes to write the answers. Okay. But that still helps क्योंकि मुझे अपने नोट से याद करना is going to be much easier than, और मुझे अपने नोट से ज़्यादा अपने जो पेपर में जो मैंने लिखा है, जो मैंने प्रैक्टिस किया है, writing that, remembering that again is much more easier.
Sir,
Yes.
I beg your pardon, but ask one last question.
Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, the last one is how to decode the particular problem statement in the particular question. Like, is there any certain type of strategy you had followed before, or like understanding the problem statement at first place?
Right. So again, there are two situations. One is question is simple. Question is one line. And just do what the question is asking. Don't overthink about this is what the question may be asking. Follow it. Maybe last में थोड़ा सा you can write some way forward or something like that.
Pro-comment data or something like that.
What?
Pro-comment approach, like, or in the conclusion part, basically.
So personally, 10 markers में this time I did not write a lot of conclusions. Because conclusion में I feel we generally repeat what we have already said. And that may not add the most value. So I just wrote like maybe 1 or 2 lines of paper. Obviously 20 markers में conclusion everyone is writing you also have to write. But it may be anything, right? It may be sustainable development goals. If you read Runal sir's economics notes, उन्होंने बहुत सारे conclusions लिखे रखे हैं उसमें, most of them are great. It may be a government scheme. It may be followed. So a lot of different ways about it. Again, किसी एक चीज से confine नहीं करना है अपने आप को. करना है तो भी ठीक है. मतलब it's not, अगर तुम्हें लग रहा है कि time is less and I just write SDG in my conclusion in 5 out of 20 answers, that is also okay. Because if that is not the defining aspect of your answer, right? If you can write an example, anecdote, case study, you can write a government scheme along with the country. Yes, it helps. But that's not going to define your answer, because for majority of the people, conclusion is going to be very repetitive about just what the question is, right? So yes, that is something. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So means के लिए we touch upon a couple of yes.
Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening.
In my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, the whole psychology is like it's very uncertain and it's a fear and anxiety that is being built. My question to you on this ground is it really that uncertain, and is it doable in the very less time that's left?
Is what is really that uncertain? I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question correctly. Could you repeat that?
Like the exam is uncertain.
Okay. So there is definitely a certain amount of uncertainty, right? It cannot be denied. And that uncertainty comes from a lot of sources. One of the sources of the uncertainty is question kya hoga. The other source of uncertainty in prelims is if I write in a certain way, will I get will it be appreciated or will it not be appreciated, right? A third source of the uncertainty is the things that I'm studying, whether I will be able to use or not, right? So these are say 3 sources of uncertainty. There can be more sources of uncertainty with respect to prelims, with respect to CSAT, with respect to so yes, uncertainty exists, right? But the good thing is we know that uncertainty exists, right? We know कि question can be क्या question पूछा जाएगा. We don't know that in advance, right? But we also know that it is going to be from a certain set of themes that have already been given to us, and if we are prepared reasonably enough on those themes, then that uncertainty is the same for all, right? Our job is to then figure out or then to practice on how to use what we know to answer the kind of questions that may be asked, and that is where practice helps. This also answers the third point of uncertainty that I mentioned. कि जो मैंने पढ़ा है क्या वो मैं use कर पाऊंगा या नहीं कर पाऊंगा. Yes. So that is again in our control. That is again something that we can practice for. If there's a question, say unrelated to what we have studied or what we know, can we still write something that we know to answer a part of that question? And that does make a difference, right? Because even if you answer a part of that question using what you know, even if you are able to contextualize something that you already know to that question, then that will be appreciated, right? The third set of uncertainty is if I am writing in a certain way, will that be appreciated? And appreciated in the way that matters, which is marks. Everyone writes in different ways. Here again, the good news is that people who write in completely different ways have all gotten good marks, right? The people who write in just very mechanically in 1, 2, 3, 4, all 20 questions point they are receiving good marks. There are people who write, there are people who don't write introductions and conclusions and they have gotten good marks. There are people who write paragraphs and they have gotten good marks, right? There are people who write point example and they have gotten good marks, which I think is the most common way. So here again, so what I said earlier, you have to find the आप किस चीज के साथ comfortable हो and go with that, because if it is something that you are comfortable with, that will bring out the best in you, and that will reflect in marks to the maximum extent possible. That is what I do. Now here, does it mean that we do not try to incorporate best practices? No, it does not mean that we do not. It means that if the best practice or if most of the people who have gotten marks is in a point example, then yes, we try to incorporate that. Yes, we try to figure out कि जो example दे रहे हैं, जो value addition दे रहे हैं, how we can write that in our answer. But it does not mean कि exactly वो method copy करना है, right? So yes, uncertainty exists, but the good news is that we know uncertainty exists and we know what we can do to deal with it. That is how I would answer that question.
Thank you, sir. So with just 30 days left, what can be the good strategy? Is it like picking more than one subject per day, or just take one subject and master it, or be confident with it and go ahead and do only those subjects which you're good at and give it a shot, or just pick all the subjects and then take it in a day 3 at once?
Right. I mean, so to this question, there cannot be one answer for every one of you. Something that you may feel comfortable doing, something that I may feel comfortable doing, it's very different something that he may feel comfortable doing. But broadly, one thing that we have to do, and this again something I will do, it's good that you asked this question. So there are two things, right? A, things that we are good at, things that we are reasonably confident at. B, things that are gaps, either in content or approach or whatever, right? We cannot completely go to the second thing, right? We have to maintain what we are good at. We have to cement what we are good at. whether that is a certain subject, whether that is in mains a certain topic, right? So uske liye we have to maintain a certain amount of practice, we have to do a certain amount of revision, right? Second thing is jo gap hai, so it has to be a little bit of both, right? But we cannot go to the second on the basis of sacrificing the first. तो जो आता है, जो चीज के साथ कंफर्टेबल हो, जो नोट्स पढ़े हैं, yes, we do need a little bit of revision of that. I would not recommend not revising that or thinking कि यार ये तो याद रहेगा, ये तो अभी याद है. It may not always work that way, right? So it's equally important to maintain what we know, but it is also important. I know I'm not answering this question. Like ये करना है, I'm saying दोनों करना है. अब दोनों किस तरह से करना है, that depends on you, but दोनों करना है. And things like say CSAT, right? CSAT is becoming a little more challenging. So in maybe a few years earlier, people would not have focused on CSAT, right? But a little bit of CSAT is also important. तो वो करना है. मतलब yes, I hope that answers the question a little bit. Yes.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So last time we had seen that there was a change in the pattern. So how did you approach it? What was your mindset?
Change in pattern in
Like, so there was only one only, two only, or the three, like that kind of questions were there.
right. So I think broadly I kept my approach the same. I just attempted a little bit fewer questions pretty as not feeling that confident. I think it happened last year, if I'm not mistaken. Not
The
last
last time 22, there were only 8 questions.
So last year you made. That's what I mean. 22 made. Yeah. 22 there were some questions, 23 the number of questions increased. Yes, you are. So broadly I did not change a lot of my approach. I just attempted a certain number of fewer questions. Let's say if I was comfortable with 80s and 90s, I maybe attempted 70 something questions. But broadly I kept the approach as the same. जो आता है उस पे टिक करो and then count and then see if I'm able to eliminate one or two options. If I'm able to eliminate two options, then what do I go with, right? So broadly I did not change my approach too much. If that answers your question. And why I did not change my approach too much is because I had found कि ये, like he said, 85 to 93 is his sweet spot, right? So I had found कि around 80 to 85 is my sweet spot, right? तो उससे बहुत ज़्यादा deviate मुझे नहीं करना था. I had found an approach कि I will go through the questions that I'm confident on, and then I'll go over the questions again, which I am not confident on, which I may have confusion between two options, and जो नहीं है, I will just not look at them again. So I had found my sweet spot both in terms of number of questions, both in terms of the approach that I want to take. And just because questions change हो गए, I will not want to disturb that. क्योंकि मतलब already question की वजह से uncertainty है. If I also bring in uncertainty in terms of how I am approaching, then that just makes it more difficult for me. So maybe little bit of change in the sense I attempted fewer questions, but apart from that, thank you.
Sir, what's your approach for making mains answer?
So I can share my laptop. I can share my screen.
Yes.
Can we just finish it off and do it later at the end? We don't have to do it immediately. We'll probably do it at the end. And I can share my notes if you want any information. We'll do it at the end.
So what should be the ideal timeline to cover the syllabus? First mains only subjects, and the second pre and mains integrated.
First
and
pre and mains integrated.
Yeah. Mains only subjects like GS4 or sociology optional.
I would recommend first the subjects that are common to pre and mains. If you But if you are comfortable with getting the mains only subject out of the way, then I am not going to advise you against it. Again, the answer to all these questions is something that you feel that this will give me more confidence. right? Someone may think that finishing off optional in 6 months, it may be a little irritating to some of you. To a lot of your questions, I'm just saying.
No, sir, in an integrated way.
Haan.
I'm telling that how should we complete the syllabus by December? Pre and mains subjects.
Right.
And mains only subjects.
Right.
And completely shifting to prelims only.
Right.
From January or
Right.
February.
So mains only subjects, except ethics, it's okay if you don't touch all of them. Is my opinion. Again, different people may have different opinions. You may have a different opinion. I will not question it, or I will not recommend you against it. What I think is more important is the subjects that are common to pre and mains. वो करना है और ऑप्शनल करना है और ethics करना है और किस तरह से करना है, कितने टाइम तक करना है. If you're doing pre and mains related subjects together, the good thing is you don't have to put a time limit. The good thing is you just keep on improving and improving and improving and improving till say maybe 1 or 2 months or maybe months if you feel confident with that. So that is a good thing. You don't have to say कि December तक ही करना है क्योंकि तुम दोनों साथ में कर रहे हो. Right? So that is something that is how I would answer that question. If you disagree with that, then I wouldn't say that different people have different ways. And if you think something is better, then yes, that is better. This is what it is. So don't let my answer reflect what you're thinking.
Sir, should they also prepare content for previous year questions?
Yes, it is very important.
And make notes?
Yeah. Not make notes per se, but yes, do look at previous year questions, both in prelims and in mains. And do try to understand what is the pattern. Is there a pattern to the question being asked, right? जैसे if you look at mains, water is something जिससे every year many questions are being asked, right? It may be rains, it may be floods, it may be sea water, it may be some other water, it may be water crisis, it may be water shortage, it may be irrigation. But many questions have been asked related to water across in 1 year. In fact, sometimes there's more than one question. But related to climate change, impact on sea levels, and so on. It makes sense to look at all those questions and prepare a little bit on water separately. Right? Water is not a separate syllabus topic, but so many questions are asked. We spend, world history se questions mein yahan we spend so much time studying world history, right? I think studying a little bit about water is more important than studying about world history. So yes, it is very important to look at PYQ from this aspect, to look at things, to see to see how to think about how you would answer the question, and to think about कि अपना preparation will be limited, but to think about कि अच्छा if I answer this, then can I repeat it somewhere else, right? A water ka, if you say prepare some water related some facts once, some schemes once, some anecdotes once, you can use those in a lot of different places with a little bit of context. So yes.
Sir, and one more thing, from where did you extract content for mains, for example, for quality and economy, agriculture?
तो broadly, जैसे specifically economy, agriculture are extensively used as in Mrinal sir के notes. So that is there. For polity, obviously spectrum is the basic source. उसके अलावा you try to look at other notes. For example, last year I don't remember, my friend had sent me a set of notes which I liked, and I used some things from there, right? And उसके अलावा politically, obviously current affairs is also little bit important. Maybe compilations like Vision का compilation itself can be used for. I've read pre 365, main 365, both of them. Not each and every topic, but those topics that I think will be useful, right? And it's very useful. So that is how. Yes. ऐसे ही पूछ लो, मुझे सुनाई देगा. हाँ, hello.
Graduation.
Thank you.
creating some of the
Thank you.
So like the question about taking main sample.
Mm-hmm.
So main sample thing, hardly we have limited time for each question.
Right.
Then we are we get 6 to 5 to 6
7 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes.
So in that movement, we have to make introduction, body, and conclusion.
Right.
So what is the best content we have to bring in that particular time?
Right.
Because we have limited time.
Right. So that's what I said earlier also. पहले focus should be on bringing the best content. एक बार best content आया तो फिर उसके बाद time में ला सकते हैं. तो पहले when you start, take 4.5 hours, right? Bring the best content. Once you have the best content, then think about इसको जल्दी कैसे लिख सकते हैं, इसको याद कैसे कर सकते हैं, इसको कहाँ कम कर सकते हैं. मतलब when you bring the best content, you may take 2 pages, but to say bring it down in time, you can write only 1.5 page क्योंकि 2 पेज में से जो बेस्ट किया है. बट तुमने बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन पूछा इन द सेंस यू डिडंट आस्क टाइम में कैसे लिखना है, यू आस्क हाउ टू राइट द बेस्ट इन द गिवन टाइम, एंड दैट इज यू आर थिंकिंग दैट वे. आई थिंक दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. तो जो ऑर्डर में क्वेश्चन है उसी ऑर्डर में आंसर है. पहले ब्रिंग आउट द बेस्ट एंड ब्रिंग द टाइम.
So what motivated?
What motivated? So I am from a technology background, so my motivation has always been to use technology in governance and so on. Yes.
Is there either you had get into this?
This has been my foremost and constant motivation. Yes, thank you.
But how did you maximize your skills in games?
Right. तो essay के लिए no separate preparation per se, just practice, brainstorming. Practice दो तरीके से, one writing full essays, and second not writing full essays, just brainstorming and writing the structure. And this is something again that I did with a friend last year. He's also qualified. So we took an essay topic, we brainstormed an outline for 20 minutes, 10 minutes we used to call each other and discuss कि हमने क्या outline discuss किया, right? So that hopefully answers the essay part. Essay में I personally used examples extensively from art and culture, from science and tech, from economy primarily. So this is something that I did. One thing that is important here is one thing that I specifically worked on, because your question was specific preparation, is कि how do I write so that ऐसे abrupt नहीं लगे, एक जगह से एक context से दूसरे context में जाना, how abrupt नहीं लगे. So that is something that I tried to work on a little bit specifically for essay. For ethics, right. So for ethics, I first made one set of my own notes, not very long, very short in fact, handwritten notes. Sometimes this is for ethics I felt. Then secondly, I made a long list of say good value additions, right? And there's a red book of ethics. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Usme examples are given specifically also. That it also covers content. It's a good read with respect to covering content also, but specifically for examples because it has examples separately in tables, right? So you can use them. Now the thing is, a lot of people use that book. So a lot of some of the examples will be common. So that is one set of examples. The other set of examples is which may not be entirely common, is you say when you read a particular topic, you maybe Google something related to it, and if you come across that, then maybe add it to the list of examples that you want to remember. But again, more important is not to create a big list of examples, right? More important is to create a relatively manageable list of examples and making sure कि आप यूज़ कर रहे हो उसको. क्योंकि आप लंबा लिस्ट बना लोगे, उसको यूज़ नहीं करोगे तो उसका फ़ायदा नहीं है. तो मतलब लंबा लिस्ट बना के रिटेन करना इज नॉट द ऑब्जेक्टिव, राइट? ऑब्जेक्टिव इज टू मेक अ मैनेजेबल सेट एंड देन पुटिंग योर फोकस ऑन how I can use this in different ways in different contexts, how I can contextualize this so that it relates to the question being asked and so on. So hopefully that.
So did you have semi-ready-made introduction to system and diagrams?
Diagrams, no. I have hardly made any diagrams. I'm very bad at them. So diagrams absolutely not. Semi-ready-made introductions, no. Semi-ready-made conclusions, yes. Semi-ready conclusions का example is SDG plus government scheme, right? This is a semi-ready-made conclusion that you can use at least in 5 out of your 20 questions. So that way. Likewise for And another thing I mentioned is 10 markers and I did not write a lot of things. I just write way forward. Those you don't need any conclusion at all. And I think that adds more value. So the conclusion you'll just be repeating something that you already said. So that was my approach. Again, you may have a different approach. You may feel comfortable with a different approach. And I would again recommend you to go with what you are feeling comfortable with during the course of your practice. If you're feeling comfortable with just repeating something that you've already written, then go with that. Because it's not the most important thing, right? What is most important is that you feel comfortable, you feel confident, so that it brings out the best in you. The conclusion is not going to be the defining factor. What is going to be the defining factor is something that brings out the best in you, right?
Sir, you had math option, right? Sir,
Right.
it is heavy syllabus.
Relatively, yes, yes, it's
So
right.
how did you manage that time? Let's say 3.5 months.
Right.
How much did you give for GS and how much did you give for option?
Right. So last it depends. Last attempt significantly more on optional than GS. I put in a lot of effort in optional. Because I felt it was more scoring. I did not get good marks. I was expecting to do much better. I thought I did well. I didn't. It didn't reflect in my marks. So this attempt, I put significantly more time in GS than in optional. Now here the good thing is what helped me was कि last year I'd given time. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि I just lost all of it, right? So that helped. But again, it depends on your perception about what will benefit you more and so on. And I myself am confused with respect to what to answer. Last year I thought I should give more time in optional. This year I thought more time in GS. This year it worked well for me. But if it had not worked well for me, then so yes.
And how did you handle that anxiety?
Right. So again, as I said, it comes from uncertainty, and yes, there is uncertainty. But the good thing is we know what that uncertainty is, and we know what we can do to handle that uncertainty. And specifically with respect to mains, it is about thinking about how we can write, or how we can write better, how we can structure better, and putting it in practice, obviously, or just without thinking, just putting it in practice. So that is there. With respect to prelims, it's just as I answered, just doing the two things, which is जो आता है और गलत हो रहा है उसको इम्प्रूव करना, और जो कंटेंट गैप्स है उसमें कैसे एड्रेस कर सकते हैं, जो अप्रोच है उसको कैसे रिफाइन कर सकते हैं. तो there are things that it's the best way is to know what to do, right? And if we know what to do, then that is the best help, is what I would say. Because usually the source of you mentioned anxiety, and it's again a very important thing, but usually the source of that is uncertainty. So because uncertainty is there, but the good thing is we know it's there and we know what we can do, and the best way to do is to what it is to doing that, right? Because there can be nothing else that we can do.
Sir, and learning from your prelims mock.
Right.
If you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. That is very objective.
Right.
But when you're learning from your own answers in mains,
Right.
Sir, did you have any strategy or something that this I'm going right here and I'm not going wrong here, something like that?
Right. So again, a very good question. Mains it's not easy to understand what is going right, what is going wrong. But when you practice, one you'll get your papers checked. So that is one source of feedback. That it may not be the most noise-free feedback, because different people will check and different people have their own eyes, right? So basically, again, this holds also for interview. You have to take the feedback that is common to a lot of different and I think you yourself are the best source of identifying कि yes, this is good, this is not good. तो I think आपने पूछा था कि best content time में कैसे लिख सकते हैं. First is best content लिखना, and then once you write the best content, then trimming it so that time में आ जाए, right? And when you write something in 15 minutes, and you write something in 12 minutes, and then you have to trim it to by say one paragraph, or when you have to do it faster, you yourself will know कि अच्छा this is not adding value, इसको हटा देते हैं. तो ये practice से ही improve होगा.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. हाँ, yes.
How did you prepare for agriculture and geography for prelims?
Right, so geography extensively NCERT because yeah, that is the most that I feel is the most comprehensive source of geography. I mean, there's this book called G.C. Leong. I think I read a couple of chapters, but by and large, almost entirely NCERT. Agriculture, I know recently a lot of questions have started being asked from agriculture. I have not studied agriculture separately. I did start reading agriculture. Pek Shankar ka book hai. I did start reading that, but I felt it's in the time that I'll put in is not commensurate to the reward that I'll get out of it. So agriculture ke liye I just confined myself to a few short notes on obviously major crops just by googling and government schemes के लिए and inputs for agriculture, outputs for agriculture के लिए I've read extensively from Nonal sir's notes. So उसमें he has a pretty big structure thing on agriculture. So that which is common to pre and mains obviously. I hope that answers your question. Yes. Right. Yeah, I'll just do that. Just quickly touch upon the fourth part, which is interview. So again, a lot of the things that I have said before also apply for interview, right? But a couple of things that attain more importance in interview is being composed, being confident. Obviously, that is very important for me. I cannot reiterate how important it is. Very important for prelims also. It just keeps on becoming more important, right? Fortunate to done well across my 3 interviews. I think I scored 200 plus across all my 3 interviews. So what I think 2 things that have helped me the most is being calm, being composed, being confident, smiling, irrespective of what is happening, and that confidence, that composure comes from revising your notes, going through the things that you have studied, and practicing about जो आता है उसको कैसे question की context में डाल सकते हैं, right? So that point that I am reading again and again, I think that holds very importantly for interview also. The second thing is structuring your answers becomes more important for interview than for mains. Mains में 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 लिखा है, चलता है. Interview में if you say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, it's not going to be very easy for you to listen, right? Interview में if you structure it into 4 different parts, then that becomes much more easier to listen. तो interview में थोड़ा focus also has to be कि how do I say my answer so that it's easy for the person to listen, and the best way to do that is structuring the answer, right? So that is something, that is the other thing that has helped me immensely. Yes, and obviously interview के लिए current affairs and all become a little more important than they are for prelims and mains, because you can be asked anything that they may see. Also, some specific topics may be more important from an interview point of view, such as IR, right? IR में GS में तो 3-4 question ही आने वाला है GS2 में, but from an interview there are people whose entire interviews have been on IR, so maybe a little bit of focus on those topics that may be specific for interview. But even if you don't know the answer, that's fine. I'm not saying content is not important. Content is really important. A lot of people say कि interview में content is not important. I completely disagree. I think what builds confidence, what builds composure, what builds that calmness, what builds that structured ability is content, right? So going through notes, whether it is your book that you read, whether it is something that you have written, I think that helps in building those things that lead up to the interview. So that is the fourth part, right? And yeah. So just quickly share my laptop, share my screen. So for example, this is my notes on cave architecture, right? So अब इसमें and this is common to pre and mains, and I had earlier not prepared in so much detail, but few years ago जो आपने किसी ने क्वेश्चन पूछा था PYQ important है क्या? PYQ important है इसलिए I specifically read this topic in more detail because I saw that this theme has been asked before and it may be asked again, right? So broadly, chronological approach, phases of development. So what are the different phases in which cave architecture developed? And then phase-wise detail, right? So for example, Mahajanpad period mein, what are the things, right? And as talking about, we'll study for pre and mains together. So if you read this, it has content that will be used for pre as well as mains as well. They say it will have examples like names of caves, which like 4 names may not be important for, but still I've written it, right? And then, for example, it has quotes from NCERT, right? So which can be used as it is in not just in this question but in some other question, right? So for example, this quote is directly from NCERT. Barabar caves greatly influenced the traditional rock cut architecture in Indian subcontinent. So on the face of it, this may seem like something that is related to rock cut architecture, but you can use it in so many places. For example, a few years ago, there was a question on continuity of Indian culture, and this is a reflection of that. There's a question on something related to how something that has happened before is influencing something that is happening now, and you can use this example. It will be a different example. So someone asked about the things that you do that other people will also be doing, but other people will not be reusing these same points in different ways, right? My approach was to do that, and it may not work for you. If something else works for you, then that something else works for you. But even if you do that, you cannot prepare infinite things, right? Or you cannot even prepare a big finite thing. So yes. Right. So for art and culture, as I said, I've read the NCERT. I've picked some things as is from NCERT. Apart from that, so I've also referred to Pratik Nayak sir's videos and lecture notes. I have referred to them extensively for ancient history and art and culture, right? And also for modern history, not for medieval history. Medieval history, I don't think is a very high reward thing compared to the amount of time that you'll have to spend. What in terms of ancient as compared to ancient history, art and culture, and modern history. So there again, NCERTs are very important. And what I personally found comfortable referring to was Pratik Nayak sir's notes, and I found them very helpful. But yes. Yes. So this is the next part that I wanted to highlight. So for the Satvana period rock cut architecture, there are a lot of caves. There are a lot of examples in NCERT, right? So how you can broadly sort of how I have divided it is common general features to all of these cave architectures, which can be used in a lot of places, and then specific features which can be used for examples. And again, these examples can be try to figure out a way to use these examples in as many places as you can, right? For example, यहाँ पे one of the common features is caves were patronized by traders and guilds, including kings and ministers. So this shows economic progress. It can be used potentially in other places. So broadly, this has been my approach, if it answers your question. And there's also a good example of how you can put stuff together for pre as well as mains in a single source and not in a lot of different places. So obviously it cannot be done for every topic. It obviously cannot be done for topics that are not there in pre. For maybe some part of polity also it cannot be done, but broadly I think it can be done, and I have followed this approach. It has benefited me immensely, and maybe if you don't want to do it in the exact way, if maybe having it different is something that you have followed so far, that is fine. That's not a issue at all. But try to think of them together at least. अगर एक जगह एक चीज एक जगह पे दूसरा चीज दूसरी जगह पे, that is totally fine. It for me also, for a lot of subjects that is the case, right? So I mentioned earlier, for polity, friend last year had sent me some notes for prelims, and I used them. That they benefited me a lot for the apart from my own notes, right? So in that case, I would say they are separate. But the important thing that I'm trying to say is ki think of them together. Think of how this relates to that, how you can maybe use content here, somewhere else, and so on, because that is going to matter much more to answer with respect to the questions that you asked, and some of the other people also asked. So I think yeah, so this is one example that I wanted to give, and maybe you can give other, maybe you can discuss other examples also, right? So yes, yeah, maybe we can stop sharing ours. Yeah, it's okay. Right. Yeah, thank you. Yes, so broadly, I think anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to. Yes.
Good evening, sir.
What
is the book list for prelims and mains, sir?
Book list pretty I mean standard. I don't think I'll be able to add any value there. NCERT is obviously the most important. Apart from that, specifically for economy, say for example, as specific book, and that is where I have found Runal sir's notes really helpful, because there's no like defined book for economy as there is for other subjects, right? And that is one thing. Apart from that, polity के लिए लक्ष्मीकांत है जैसे, history के लिए spectrum है. I also read spectrum. Although it's, I also feel it's becoming a little not as useful as it may have been earlier. But it still is a good summary of everything that has happened fact-wise as well as content-wise. So that way it exists, right? And if you ask me any specific topic, then I'll be able to give a more specific answer. But I don't think I'll be able to add any value per se with respect to a book list.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. For okay, nice. So maybe for economics this can be
How do you look into each and every options? Like one, two, three options will be there, and the answers will be 1 only, 2 only, 3 only.
Right.
So how do you relate each one of the options to?
Right. So suppose 4 पॉइंट है 1 2 3 4 जो सही है क्वेश्चन के हिसाब से उस पर टिक मारो, ठीक है. अगर नहीं पता है तो क्वेश्चन मार्क लगाओ. एंड देन अगर एक क्वेश्चन मार्क है तो देन इट्स इजी, राइट? यू हैव 2 ऑप्शंस, यू हैव टू गेस वन होता है. अगर 2 क्वेश्चन मार्क है या 3 क्वेश्चन मार्क है, so then you go with whatever you have decided, right? You may decide कि या छोड़ के आगे जाएंगे, you may decide कि उसी टाइम पे गेस करके आंसर करेंगे, you may decide कि you'll revisit it. Yes, accuracy has decreased, and that is why cutoff has also decreased. But हाँ, मतलब I think questions have become different. It's not necessarily become more difficult, and I think it is possible to do a lot of those questions just by going with our same principles that we have followed, right? Not nothing new. I think it is possible to do that. Yes. Yes. For mains, I would say that is extremely important, even for interview, and with the kind of questions that have been asked, maybe for prelims also.
Sir, recently there have been questions on animal behaviors, and then often we hear Mrinal sir quote in his class that. Sir, recently there have been questions on animal behavior. We hear Mrinal sir quote on like, there's no much point reading on questions like hathi udta hai ki nahi, all that things he says in the exam and in his class in a rather funny way, which is fine. My question is ki it was there in the previous exam, previous prelims. It was there in your prelims as well.
Right.
I want to know, did you prepare specifically for it, or did you go by the weightage point of view that it's not really efficient in that?
Right. So I did not prepare specifically for it. However, if it does become a trend, then yes, there may be some merit to say putting in some time to.
Okay, sir. If that's the case, then is there a particular source, or do we have to go randomizing? What do we do?
I can't. I don't know any source per se. I did not do it. I don't think 2 years is a trend. Honestly, but like I earlier gave an example of water, right? Questions related to water are being asked at least 1 or 2 questions since 2013, right? So I felt that there is merit to making 10 pages of notes only on water, and I did that. And that was useful for me throughout, right? For prelims also, I don't know how much for prelims. I think it was useful for prelims also because this year there was one factual question on water, right? And this is 10 page, not 100, and this is 10 page type notes, full pages, right? So really long set of notes on water, but I think it for the way I thought is it makes sense for me to do it because it's in आने ही वाला है मेंस में क्वेश्चन 8 साल से आ रहा है, क्यों नहीं आएगा? And water, I mean, when I say water, I mean very comprehensively, right? I include the geography part, the policy part, the irrigation and agriculture part, the environment part, the climate change part, the disaster management part, floods, droughts, and so on. So these may be topics across different categories, right? But essentially they're all related to water. Essentially, you can prepare a certain set of facts for them and use it across these topics, right? So this because it was this kind of trend, I put in that extra effort. It helped. It is relevant for interviews because if you look at interview transcripts, a lot of people are asked questions on water now, and it's much more. A lot more questions across prelims, mains, interviews are asked on water than world history, for example, or even post-independence India. So this is something that I would call a trend, and if there is a trend like this, then it does make sense to prepare for it separately.
Okay, sir. Earlier in the session, you talked about you gave 25 odd tests for the mains.
I gave
30 odd tests is a healthy
this year
amount.
I
You said.
did that, yes.
So, sir, it's like including all the GSs and the essay part of it, or do you exclude?
Probably not including essay. If I include essay, I think maybe 25 just GS, not including essay. I probably, if I want an exact count, I can refer to my laptop again. But 25 just for GS at least. Maybe a couple of them more. Maybe not 30 just for GS, but around 25 just for GS at least. It helped me, but there's something I did this time. I'm not saying this I did last time also. Last time I did lesser. Yes. Good evening.
The question is related to your approach for the target of marks you target for your mains. Let's say you are aiming for a good rank.
Right.
Somewhere around 800 to 820 is like you need minimum in mains.
Yeah, here my mother has always told me, I'm very grateful to her for that. Why are you targeting 100 or 120 or 115 just because that is the maximum marks they are giving, right? Why don't you target 250? Marks देना उनके हाथ में है. Our job is to write answers कि अपन खुद चेक करेंगे तो अपन खुद अपने आप को 10 मार्क्स देंगे, ठीक है? अब उनको जितना मार्क्स देना है वो उनके ऊपर है. बट इन्होंने पहले पूछा था कि बेस्ट वे टू राइट बेस्ट कंटेंट इन द टाइम, राइट? You practice towards that. You reach a point where you feel confident कि yes, this is a very good amount of content that I'm writing in my papers, and I'm doing it in a reasonable amount of time. You feel you try to reach a point where you feel ki if I were to write this answer again, there's hardly anything I'd change about it, right? And that is a more realistic target in my opinion, because marks change from year to year also, right? Just GS1 mein last year a lot of people got good marks. This year people overall scoring has reduced. तो मतलब ठीक है, you can aim कि हाँ मतलब इतना लाना है, इतना लाना है, इतना लाना है, इतना improve करना है, but why not aim for what is the total possible, and a more realistic way of looking at it is, why not aim for reaching a point where you feel कि हाँ I feel good about this.
Thank you, sir. Also, one specific question related to GS3. If you see last 2-3 years mains marks, even I wrote mains this year.
Right.
My GS3 marks were low.
Yes.
So GS3, anything specific you did for?
So GS3 specifically, I think data helps. I think something like case studies, something like examples help more in GS3 than they do in GS1 or GS2, right? Less, and obviously, lot of value addition. I think that has helped me in GS3 as compared to. That helped me in GS3 more than it has helped me in GS1 and 2. So that is one thing I would say. Yeah, I think that is. Yeah, that's one thing. The other thing is some parts of GS3 are again very preparable, just a disaster management, internal security. So, and it is in our hands to prepare for them well, right? So the internal security ke liye, I used internal security. I used 2 sources this time. I made my own notes, and I think that helped me because I could replicate a lot of it in the exam. Likewise for disaster management, I think we can be well prepared, and one of the differences between this attempt and my previous attempt was that disaster management I prepared better, right? So there are things that we can prepare well, and that is the other thing, apart from relatively more value additions.
This will be the last question. Any other question? Last.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My name is Prahlad. Sir, how to maintain the consistency, sir, during this period of time? Any good habits or any steps to follow to maintain the consistency?
Right. So, personally, I used to wake up early.
Sir?
Okay. In the day, and I used to personally have already a pre-decided something that I would do, so that not thinking about क्या करना है क्या नहीं करना है, right? क्योंकि उसी में बहुत टाइम लग जाता है, उसी में फिर you get into a thought process of ये करना है या नहीं करना है, या will this be useful or not. So that is something that I did. Apart from that, the positive sort of way to look at it is looking back upon your motivation of why you started this in the first place, right? The not so positive way of looking at it is motivation is कि only so much time is left, right? So bunch of different things, something that is very positive, something that is not so positive, something that is like a schedule. All of those things help little, and then yeah, and it's probably not just one thing, maybe a lot of combination of different things.
Okay, we will conclude the session now.
Thank you so much for listening to me, and I think all of you asked. I hope it was useful, and if it was useful, then one of the biggest, I think the biggest reason for that is because you asked really pertinent questions. You asked really good questions. You asked questions that made it useful. If you had not asked those questions, then it would not have been as useful. So thank you for asking the questions that you asked, and thank you for listening to me.
Our humble gratitude
Thank you so much.
Kush and
Thank
also
you.
to Himanshu sir to
Thank
take
you,
out
sir.
their precious time and coming here and interacting with you. Thank you all for joining us for today evening and asking with enthusiasm your questions, your doubts and queries. Thank you and good evening from Vision IS.